Your Creative Push, episode 170.
How hard can difficult be if it's something you love? And if it's something you love, the courage will come naturally to you.
Welcome to Your Creative Push, the podcast that pushes you to pursue your creative passions. I'm your host, Youngman Brown, and my guest today is Peter Drahl. Peter is an artist from Singapore whose art has touched the lives of people across Asia and around the world. He has achieved 4 Guinness World Records: largest caricature, largest art lesson, longest drawing, and longest drawing by an individual. Peter has devoted his entire adult life to drawing to protect children who cannot protect themselves. And Peter, first of all, thank you so much for coming on the show. I was wondering if we could start there with your mission. How exactly do you go about helping children with your drawing?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I think my mission is really simple. What I tell children today, every time I give a talk to young people, is that basically I'm just using my first love, which is drawing, to remind and to inspire people around me to first love, which is to begin whatever we do, to do it with love. So what I do with my mission is really simple. I use drawing to protect children who otherwise cannot protect themselves, whether it's in disaster areas for the survivals, or whether it's children who are living through poverty, or just children living in big cities and probably feeling a little bit not so confident about their life, or feeling not so much self-worth or self-confidence and anything. So what I do is I protect children's dreams, their confidence to pursue their dreams, their self-confidence, their self-worth, and making them feel that, it doesn't matter what problems you are facing right now. Eventually, everybody find love. So what I do really with my art is to give them that hope, that love, that look. It's more than just, look, there's a stranger who cares for you. No, it's more than that. It's about getting them to know that it's not about our scars. It's always about our heart. And I think that is something that you can relate to, like what you do. It can be so much more than that, right? So what I do is, it's not just about drawing. My dream is not just about being an artist. My dream is more about what I do as an artist. And what I want to do as an artist is to use my first love, drawing, to really make people see a bigger picture out there that, look, eventually we all find love. So I think that's something what I do. I don't really answer this question all the time. I hope this is a good enough answer.
Oh, it's a perfect answer, because I think it's something that people lose, that I love that idea of, your first love, especially when you're talking about children. I feel like everybody has some type of creative passion when they're a kid, and it's just a matter of time as to when they lose it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to be able to help children that have so many other things that are going on that could easily kind of lose that. And like you said, it's not about the drawing, it's about the connection and finding their first love. Where are some of the places that you've gone? Because you've gone some pretty amazing places.
Agree with what you just said, right? I think that's why I always remind myself to put on the red sweater. It kind of reminds me subconsciously why I'm doing this in the first place. To always remember the beginner spirit, remember why we begin. So back to our question, some of the places I've been to, the more memorable places would be in 2011 after the Tohoku region earthquake. So I've been to in Fukushima, Iwate, and Miyagi prefectures a few months after the disaster. In fact, during the same month of disaster, myself and my friend who were studying in Japan, we went to Saitama, we went to Tokyo to meet with the people who evacuated from Fukushima, Iwate, and Miyagi prefectures. I've also been to Cape Town in South Africa, in Alawela in Costa Rica, in Sichuan, China, Aceh, Indonesia, and Taichung in Taiwan, and some other places that similarly have disasters before. And I was very fortunate because back in 2008, I was given the opportunity to travel around Southeast Asia. They call it ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, to travel around and meet over 10,000 people, young people, children, to find out what makes these children happy, And this visit, this tour around the 10 countries is actually sponsored and put together by the ASEAN state government members. So these are some of the places I've been to, the more memorable ones. Yeah.
That's so cool. And would you say that there's a similarity between these very different places around the world with the people that you meet? Is there a commonality that you find between especially the young people there that have gone through, some very hard times?
Of course. People is always people. Love is love. It doesn't matter where you are. In fact, one important lesson I learned is that from this disaster survivors, the most important lesson that I learned is that, there are certain things in life, once broken or once lost, you can never replace it with money or time. And it is in such extreme situation that people start to take their everyday life very seriously, which if you look around us, like us living through our everyday life, we may be probably taking a lot of things for granted. For example, our friendships, our relationships, our traditions, our culture, the architecture around us, or just simple things around us. But if you're at the other end of the world, going through such extreme situation beyond your own decisions, you start to take all these little things not so much for granted. So back to our question, what's the similarity? All these places I've been to, the children always draw a lot of pictures with them, and all the visual of the picture always depict a different image of a different idea. But the similarity across all these different drawings is that it is always the simple things in life that is really around us that truly makes us happy. It's nothing more than what we already have, which is what I call the term sweetest gift, right? There's nothing. Everybody around us, whether it's young people, whether it's you or me, or people older than us, we all have this sweetest gift, and it is really nothing more than what we already have. It could be our time, it could be our experience, it could be our network, it could be just volunteering a simple word or action or listening ear. If you do it with love, actually it can make a big difference to the life of people around us. And that is the one idea I want all the people I visit with my art, with my drawing, to really understand. It doesn't matter what happened to you. Some people may lose their homes. Some people may lose their friends. There's a particular kid who lost one arm because of the disaster, right? The only arm he can use to write is gone forever, right? It is these people, I want them to understand that, look, it doesn't matter how much or what you're going through now. As long as you begin whatever you do with love, even the smallest action can make the biggest difference. That it is not about your scar, it is always about your heart. That, it's not about what you're going through now. Make the rest of your life the best of your life, right? And children like to ask me, or even sometimes they just say, when I grow up, I want to be like this person. Or sometimes they say, I want to be like you, Peter Draw, when I grow up. But what I say to them is, look, every other people's roles has been taken. The only role that's not taken in this world today, or for the rest of your days, is the role of being yourself. All you need to do is to be yourself and be the best version of yourself. So that is what I always remind children. Don't try to be like somebody else. That role is taken. Just be yourself and know that whatever you do, if you love it enough, it doesn't matter how difficult it may be. If you love it enough, how tough can difficult be? And if you love it enough, you have enough courage to go and try to figure out things and eventually make things happen. So a lot of my work is not just about the surface on the drawing. It's to bring out these values, these important life lessons, these really important things that is really around us to the children who matter the most. I think art is generally, the way I see it, art is just a way of seeing things differently. And contemporary art, in a way, is just a new way of seeing things differently. So I think I would like to say that my art is about helping people to see themselves and everyone and everything around them differently through love. I think that is what my art or my drawing really does. It helps people to see themselves and everybody around them differently with love. I think that's really important.
Yeah, it's super important. It can kind of put you in your place when you have what we call first world problems, when, you have a job and, too many TV shows to watch and like, a life that you kind of do take for granted, like the relationships that you have and the small things can set you off and you can get in a fight with your wife or husband or your family members for some very trivial thing. But when you do something like you do and you see those kinds of people, it does put things into perspective, that you shouldn't kind of take things for granted and you should kind of cherish that sweetest gift like you're talking about, that the fact that you are alive on this earth and you have something to bring out with your art or just with your relationships with other people and to kind of focus on that. I think it's super important, and I just love your mentality about what you do.
Youngman, one question from you, right? I'm from Singapore. You are in US, right?
Yep.
Just one question. Like, do you feel like in the place where you are from, there are probably people who are doing too many things to earn money they don't need, to please people they don't care, to buy things they don't want, for a very artificial way of life? Compared to like, I think, which should be the right way of doing just the few things that really matter to the people you really care about. Life can be really simple. So, because I have this trigger, right? When you mention the word first world problem, I wanted to say first thing is that it's all relative, right? Like a poor people in a poor country, compared to a poor people in a rich country, which is worse. So you can debate and argue about that. The second thing is, I just think that the first world problem tends to happen because of a very artificial expectation that we place with ourselves, that we lie to ourselves, that we need all this to please all these people that we don't really care about or who don't really care about us in order for us to live a life that we should be happy about. I just find this quite interesting from my point of view as an artist, observing about society, observing about people living and going about their life. I just find this really interesting in today's society.
Yeah. So what I think is that, especially in America, especially in similar people that are in similar kind of situations, and we kind of talk about this on the podcast sometimes. It's like and it goes for wherever you're kind of born. Like you're born in a place, you grow up, and you're kind of in that situation. And it's, for the most part, I think people get kind of, I don't want to say hypnotized, but they get immediately thrown down this like this river of society of, you're surrounded by people that are telling you can't do art as a career. You need to get a job where you can earn X amount of dollars. And so this whole decision-making process starts when you're like in first grade, basically. You're going through 12 years of education, and then you're going to go to college, hopefully. Hopefully in college you can decide what job you're going to get, and then hopefully you can get a job right after college. And then from then on, you're probably going to be doing a similar career to that, trying to earn money until you retire. And the whole time, like you were saying, you're going to be focused on, making money to buy the things that you think that, the things that people are telling you that you need. You need the newest phone. You need the latest gaming system. You need the best laptop. You need, you know what I mean?
Agree. But I just want to make it clear that, like the things we say to motivate people or to get people to think twice about their decisions in life, it is only for people who are complaining about their life. For those who are going through their life completely happy with what they have and where they are now, I think it's perfect. It's good. The certain message that we want people to think about is only for people who are complaining and unhappy about their life. Then I think these messages will come across useful to them.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think some people are happy with this kind of that kind of life.
Who are we to judge, right? How people live their life.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I do think that if, for people that are listening to this, usually it's because they lack some type of motivation. That's why I created it, because I lacked it. Either a motivation or or just being scared of doing something that's inside of you that you just are too scared to either put out there or too lazy or you're just sucked into that kind of like that flowing river of what people are telling you to do.
Agreed.
And like you said, I do think that, you know, that sweetest gift is something that's inherent in everybody. And I think that people would be amazed with, you know, how little they need to actually be happy. But it's a really scary thing to actually kind of make that leap of, you know, trying a completely different thing that's out in left field that you think could make you happy, maybe, when nobody around you is telling you that that's like a smart thing to do, to quit your job and go volunteer around the world or do something like that. You know what I mean? I think that that's not just like the society in which you live. That's your parents, that's your friends, that's your spouse. To make that kind of a decision is a very scary thing.
The first step is just to, you know, let these people know that, look, all this motivational stuff is good, but they are just a bonus. It is more important to let people know that the first thing you should do is to love yourself more, just a little bit every day. And once you start loving yourself more, then go out and love other people. Too many people, they like to do too many heroic things for other people without first loving themselves. So this leads to them getting tired along the way, or getting like discouraged, or getting hurt when they don't get the expected outcome or reward. First thing, just to be completely at peace and be happy and love what you do. I think this game called life is very easy. If you get to do what you love every day, you have really won this game, right? And while I remind myself, back to what we were discussing earlier, that we don't take things for granted. If you realize, right, I always wear this red sweater. For one reason, because my late grandfather told me I look good in red when I was young. So when I put on the red sweater, it kind of reminded me why I started in the first place, right? To draw, to draw, to protect people, to be this great artist that I promised him when he was still alive that I would be. And if you realize, I like to wear blue shirt or sometimes blue jeans to go along with my red sweater. For one reason, blue actually represent the idea of Picasso's blue period in 1901 to 1904. The particular 3 years where Picasso started painting a lot of artwork in blue. They call that the blue period. At that time, a lot of people think that, oh, why is all the paintings in blue? Blue paintings and artwork don't usually do well. Fast forward to today, blue period's artwork by Picasso is one of the most sought after and important of his career. So what I want to say with the blue and the red is to represent the idea that sometimes we don't understand the true value of a moment until it becomes a memory. What I'm trying to say, sometimes later becomes never. Sometimes if you hesitate, you may lose the chance to do something forever. And look at myself, right? You need motivation. I was a boy who was told he couldn't draw. I couldn't even hold a pencil properly. When I was 6, I was kicked out of an art lesson because my parents couldn't afford the $20 fee. In fact, at the time, my father was holding a temporary job at this place called Mustafa selling umbrellas. Sometimes he don't even generate enough income for the family. So growing up is tough financially. And today, here I am with drawing the largest drawing, right? The boy who was told he couldn't draw has drawn the largest drawing in the world. The way I say it is larger than the world's largest drawing at a time by breaking somebody else's Guinness World Record to take the record in my name, right? Larger than the world's largest. And I taught the largest art lesson in the world for somebody who was kicked off an art lesson. And then I thought, look, I've drawn the largest drawing. Why not I draw the longest drawing? Similarly for the boy who was told he couldn't draw. And you look at my 4th record, it's about longest drawing with other people. In Chinese, there's this word called the idea of 汉语拼音. There is 4 sounds to every character word. So for this particular word, 点, the first sound of 点, it means peak. It means you are right at the top. And the 4th sound of 点, it means 点. It becomes a platform. So when you are already at the top of the world, what can you do to even be a better version of yourself? Will you become a platform to empower other people to do even more things that's beyond what they think they could already be doing? So my 4 Guinness World Record actually represent the whole idea of my life with that one character I. The first sound of I is pei I. It means sorrow, right? In Chinese. And the last sound of I, the 4th sound of I, it means I. It means love. It doesn't matter how we begin our life. Eventually, everybody find love. Just look around you. Even Ratatouille, the Pixar movie, mentioned this. Not everybody can be a great artist. But a great artist can come from anywhere. And in this case, in Singapore, there's this boy who for so many years was being told he was holding pencil the wrong way, couldn't draw properly, don't even have money to attend a $20 art lesson. Look, he is drawing today to change the world of people around him. And it is because I get to do this, and it is because the narrative that I never stopped trying. Slowly, more and more people are joining this movement of drawing to change the world of people around us. In fact, today, if you look around me, there are little children. I mean children, not just little children. Someone taller than me. Children who are learning to role play like me. They call themselves little draws. Little versions of Peter Draw, little draws. So what they do is, I don't just teach them for free how to draw cute portraits like what I do. They learn how to draw cute portraits, and then they go out to public spaces to draw to make other people happy. And if the people like their drawing, they make a small donation and we give back to the community where we come from. And this is how I not just Peter doing drawings to help other people. That narrative is not one I want to share with my future grandchildren. In fact, if you look around us, right, if you go to people, old people, and you talk about what are their regrets, it's about things they never do, the stories they can't leave behind for their children or grandchildren. All these pictures and videos we are taking, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat or anywhere, right? All these are images and stories that one day our children will be seeing. And what I want them to see when they see my red sweater, when they see the drawings I created with when they see all the different projects I've done with children, I only hope they see one thing. And the one thing I hope for them to see is love.
And I think they will, because that's what I see when I look at that. Can you for the audience talk about the red sweater and that whole movement and why it's so important?
So when I was really small, I put up some photos on my Instagram, Peter Draw. When I was young, I was always seen wearing red. I don't know why. And later on, my grandfather said, you look good in red.
You look good, yeah.
That's your favorite color. So I thought to myself, oh, so that's my favorite color? Oh, okay. So it kind of like, from a young age, I liked the color red. And my grandfather always make up a lot of story to encourage me. And him saying red is looking good on me, it matters a lot to me because it comes from him. When I was 6, I was kicked out of an art lesson. So at that time, the story is this. I went for a free trial art lesson and it's oversubscribed. There's a lot of people queuing up to go in, even though I'm one of the earliest one. When the teachers start collecting $20 fee for the next lesson, I was very honest. I was only 6 years old. I told the teacher, I don't have the fee for the next lesson. So the teacher said, get out of here. There are a lot of people queuing outside. So I don't know what to do. I stayed there and the teacher pushed me and I fell. So after a while, I stood outside the class. I wanted to learn what's happening inside the classroom. I stood outside, I tiptoed, I looked through the tiny space between the window panels because I wanted to learn so much. Yet, of all people in the world, is somebody I want to be when I grow up telling me to forget about a dream and push me out of the class. I ran home, I cried, and my grandfather asked me why I cried. And he told me a story to encourage me to continue this belief that I can one day be this artist I dream about becoming. Because I fell in love with drawing when I was really young. Each time I draw on a blank piece of paper, I feel like, like anything is possible. I could turn something that's otherwise empty into something that really put a smile on my own face, eventually to other people's faces. So he told me a story that, look, in the Western world, there used to be this little boy, similarly, who wear red, thick, short eyebrows, who hold pencil this way, like to wear red color t-shirt all the time, and like to draw. In fact, he was told he couldn't draw, and because he don't have $20 fee, he was kicked out of an art lesson too. I was thinking, are you talking about me or talking about that person? So my grandfather continued and saying that, look, but this young boy, eventually a young man, eventually become a very successful artist, never stopped believing in his dream, and he never gave up on pursuing this dream to be a great artist. In fact, before he died, he was so successful, he created Disneyland. His name was Picasso. So growing up, I told my grandfather, one day I'll be this Picasso who create my own Disneyland to make a lot of people happy with my art. Until a few years later, when I go to secondary school and I start to read about art history, and I realize, I think it is two different people. It took me so many years to realize that. But my grandfather didn't really went to school. So he wasn't really educated. So I'm not sure even if he himself know that the story he told me was made up. Or maybe he believed Picasso was really the one who created Disneyland. So all these stories and other stories that he always tell me is basically, I think he's trying his best to make me believe that I'm special in my own way. So today, when I talk to children, I always remind the children, look, you are special in your own little way. So don't ever one day think that you're not special enough. And it all happens when I was 16 years old after my O-levels. He passed away. He had a very peaceful passing. And it is that passing of his that made me realize one last lesson. Indirectly, he's teaching me that, sometimes our loved ones, no matter how much they love us or how much we love them, they cannot wait forever for us. If there's something you want to do with the people you love, you lose it, you may lose the chance forever, later become never, right? Like I said earlier, I just repeat it. Sometimes you don't realize the true value of a moment until it becomes a memory. Time is love, right? So the red sweater become even more special to me after my grandfather is gone. And each time I wear the red sweater, I don't want to forget the beginner spirit. I hate to forget why I started in the first place. I remind myself, the person I promised my grandfather to be, if I don't meet this person, which technically I can't, there's no Picasso who created Disneyland, I will be this person myself. I will be this person myself. I'm going to be the Picasso who create my own Disneyland. I'm going to create art that make a lot of people happy. And by wearing the red sweater, I remind myself subconsciously why I'm doing this. And I never forget that. So it serves as a reminder. And today, a lot of children who wear the red sweater, who are trained under me and mentor under me, they call themselves little dwarfs. When they go out, they earn the right to wear the red sweater. In fact, if you are in Singapore this December, this Christmas, I have a partnership with this beautiful live-wear brand, Uniqlo, to create red sweaters and get a little dwarf to draw for other people, to make other people happy at their Orchard Central store to raise funds for local charity in Singapore. And in 2008, this is a really special story that I don't really share with a lot of people. And since we are doing this, I want to share something more than what you can find on the internet. I want to share something personal. In 2008, while I was traveling around Southeast Asia, the 10 countries, I was invited by then Singapore's president, Mr. S.R. Nathan, to the Istana, and we have tea inside a private room. And he and me, we were discussing about what was iconic in Singapore. So we have a debate because he was thinking it was the Abing and Alliance of Singapore that's really iconic that we can't find anywhere else outside of Singapore. Abings and Alliance are guys and girls who are behaving like a bit of the not so well behaved young people in the society. And they thought that's the icons of Singapore. I disagree. Anyway, in that conversation, he asked me why am I always wearing the red sweater despite Singapore's weather averaging such a hot temperature. It makes no sense. So I told him I've been doing this because of all the things I just shared with you, right, young man? And he said, since you're doing this, one day if you become successful, do not forget to take care and look after the people who are less fortunate in our society. So what he's telling me that is the most important thing I take away from that conversation with him is that go make this red sweater iconic since you're doing this. And it is only because of his passing this year, a few months ago, he passed away peacefully, our late president, that I feel this crazy sense of urgency to want to do something with this red sweater even more so than before. And which is why I started to talk to Uniqlo and say, can we do something? I really want to do something more with this red sweater, with this little draw. And this is my vision. I want to bring Little Dwarfs a free art program to 100 cities. If every city I could train 100 art graduates or trainers, right, for free, and each of them to train 100 little dwarfs each, which every little dwarf will draw 100 cute portraits each, 100 cities, 100 trainers per city, 100 little dwarfs per trainer, 100 drawings per little dwarf. We create 100 million drawings. And if every drawing create and donate and raise a value of $10 for local charity, we just created and give away $1 billion of happiness, worth of happiness, just like that. That costs us nothing. So that is what I really want to do. And that, I think, is more of a legacy thing I want to do. And not so much about me anymore, that I believe from day one is always about the little ones. Our job really is to set a bar as high as possible and to encourage and empower and give a platform to the young people to surpass us. as early as possible. I think that's what giving forward, paying it forward, I think it's all about. So I call it drawing forward. Yeah.
Drawing forward.
Yeah.
I love that. And I will do whatever I can to help support you in that endeavor. I think that's an awesome story and an awesome goal.
Thank you.
And just, man, absolutely. And just going back to the because that's my favorite. I was hoping you would tell that Picasso Disney story, because I think it is really important, because your grandfather is somebody that really inspired you, and it doesn't matter how the facts are. Like you said, he might not have known, maybe he did know, but it doesn't matter at all. It's the connection, like you were talking about earlier. It's that connection that he made to you, to tell you that story, to tell you exactly what you needed to do to not only get you through that period, but to shape your life, dude, like to set you on a path that you needed to go on. And I think that is something that, like we were talking about before, like getting back to the sweetest gift, the idea that when you're communicating from your heart, for people that are creating stuff with your art, when you're communicating with your heart and hopefully communicating with other people, it doesn't matter what kind of authority figure you are, as long as you are, saying an important message. And it also, as you said, that hesitancy, you don't have forever. So you better start today, get on the path that you want to go to today, because, not everybody's going to last forever, and you might not be in the same situation as you were before. You never know where life will take you, and it might take you to a place where you can't pursue those things as effectively as you can now. So just get to it right now. Exactly.
All the rules and regulations, just ask yourself, according to who? And there's no such thing as no such thing. If you really want to do, having said that, I think it's very important to add that, do it with love, do it with the right intention, because we don't want to encourage people to go and do all the wrong things and they believe it's actually something they should be doing. Do it with the right intention of beginning it with love. Then with that, I think the future, we are all building it together. In US, in Singapore, we are all linked. We are only as good as the people around us. As a country, we are only as good as the countries around us. As a friend, we are only as good as the friends around us. We are all interconnected, interlinked, right? With this said, I think together, if all of us, this generation, we can all start building and doing whatever we are doing right now. Just begin it with love. Don't do it out of revenge. Don't do it out of ego. Don't do it out of, like showing off or comparison to other people. All these things are artificial and it don't really matter. Right? 10 years later, you're going to laugh at yourself. Why am I doing all this hard work because of this stupid reason? Begin it with love. Start it with love. Begin with love. First, love. And I think the future, we are all collectively building together for our children, for your grandchildren, for my grandchildren, is going to be one that is worth sharing and talk about. And I think that's what's really important. It's good that we are all self-aware that sometimes we forget that. And that's a very good first step. Just don't make it all the time, right? That we forget about all these important things. So once we are aware that sometimes we forget, just make it more regular that we remember to begin with love. Don't have to, change people's mind immediately, entirely, to make a big decision to change their life. I don't think that's how the world works. Just slowly, one step at a time, right? We do as much as we can to inspire and change people around us and be the most patient person to wait it out. Nobody is going to be foolish forever. Nobody is going to be blind to all this love and kindness around them forever. Different people just need more time. So just have the patience to wait it out. At the same time, do as much as we can to influence them. A little bit, one step at a time. I think that's how it works. Yeah.
You're right, and I think it is important. It's very like I was talking about before with the kind of getting sucked into the people around you and kind of going down this river that's pushing you in a different direction that society kind of wants you to go. It's easy. It's very easy to kind of let the river take you down that way and to forget about what you really care about.
Yeah.
If perhaps you have forgotten since your childhood, but I think that's why it's important to have, you don't necessarily have to put on a red sweater, but it is important to give yourself that kind of a daily, subconscious reminder of why it's important to you and why you want your life to kind of go in a different direction and go towards the direction that is really important to your heart and to your soul. And that's why I love the red sweater.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Absolutely, dude. So do you have, like, you do so much, do you have any things that kind of hold you back? Do you have any resistances that you experience on a daily basis, whether it's from actually creating or from just the kind of grind that you go through? It has to be somewhat taxing on you, even though you are spending your life in such a wonderful way. There has to be some days where it feels like a lot.
Of course, like certain feelings like stress, or you just feeling a bit frustrated with situations that pop up for no good reason. You know, like different people you communicate with, suddenly their intention is not the right one. These things always happen, and it's impossible to avoid or ignore all these things. And like, I think all humans go through a feeling of feeling lost from time to time. Like, you don't know what better things you can do to make the situation better. So, like right now, like as the years goes by, I'm 32 years old now, I'm beginning to see and understand the reality of how things work in the real world. So I don't really place a lot of expectation that things must go a certain way. And because I don't really have a lot of expectation on things going exactly this way or that way, you don't really feel as stressed as before. And also one thing is that young people who are trying to pursue a dream, never do it to prove other people wrong. Never. Even me from Singapore, I have watched a YouTube video of LeBron James in America saying that he regretted when he was younger trying to prove other people wrong. And he started changing it with the mentality to doing things that really matter to him instead. Right? And that is a better and stressless way of living your life. So the problems that I face, not just sometimes, it could be most of the time, you know, just deal with it. Things that's within your control, you face it and get it right and work on it immediately, or at least when you feel better, right? And things that is beyond your control, just let it go. Don't feel so bothered about it. But having said that, one thing I always say to a lot of people, and one thing that's really out of my control, is that a lot of people are not doing enough things to change the world because a part of them believe that they can't really do much to change the lives of people around them or the entire world, right? But I choose to be bothered by that. And this is the one thing that gets me up at night. I have a friend, his name is Axton. So he travels a lot from Indonesia, Singapore, sometimes to other countries. So he has this beautiful plan of trying to end poverty within the next 15 years. So he's doing a lot of wonderful work with his company and with his time volunteering with the UN. That is one thing that keeps me up at night. For me, the one thing that keeps me up at night is that children today, every day, so many of them are crying and going through their sleep in pain because of certain situation that's beyond their own decision. I just feel that if there's something we can do, and since, young man, you are there in your room, maybe in the air-conditioned room, in a very comfortable chair, in a four walls that's completely giving you a safe shelter at night, tonight, every night, and me sitting on this chair at 3:30, I'm having coffee in my hand right now as I'm talking to you. It's all comfortable. Since we are here, since we are able to do something, that it is necessary for us to do something, right? Sometimes my stress don't come from the work I do. Sometimes the stress that I face, that you just asked me about, come from me caring beyond what I should be caring about. But I think it is that part of me that make me want to do, that have made me done all these things that you think is worth doing. And that's the motivation of why I'm doing all these things. And the motivation, the way I define it, is everything I'm doing today is only because as a future grandfather, I don't have kids, so I'm bypassing one step.
Sorry. An important step.
That's a natural sequence of things, but I like to bypass that.
Man.
So anyway, okay, let me calm down. So what I'm saying is, everything I'm... Yo, man, don't laugh. If you laugh, I will continue laughing.
Sorry.
I'm easily influenced.
Yeah.
Clear your throat. Okay. Everything is cool now?
Everything's cool.
Yeah, okay, good. So one thing I like to say is that everything I'm doing today, I do it only because it makes a good story for my future children and grandchildren. Right? If it's not something worth retelling and sharing to my children and grandchildren, that's probably something I wouldn't be doing. right? So with that, like the decisions I make in life, like the stress that I face if I'm doing certain things, but knowing that the bigger motivation is that it's worth doing because it makes a good story, whether it's a life lesson or a life value that is important to share with my future children and grandchildren, then that's the stress I like to face. And that's the kind of work I want to do. But if the project I'm being proposed to do is something that I wouldn't be happy or proud sharing with my children and grandchildren, then nope, I'm not going to do anything or get involved with this project.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like you're talking about living life to the fullest and not having that hesitancy. I think it is an important thing for, like, creativity aside, just living life is not being stuck in this thing that you hate doing every single day and not wasting this precious thing that is life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that you're doing the correct thing, or the only thing that people should be doing is helping people around you. It's helping, and not necessarily people around you, people a world away. I'm a huge space nerd. I love thinking about outer space, and I think that if humans thought about space more, you know, the sun doesn't set for us, you know, like we revolve around this giant ball of fire, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're rotating, and that's the way that existence is.
Yes.
I think if people thought about things that way, rather than kind of the sun revolving around us, and we could see ourselves as more of a global community. And I think that's what the world needs. Certainly that's what this country needs right now. My country, that is. And I think that is the way that people should be thinking about it. It's not, you know, just because we create borders and lines on a map, that doesn't mean that we should separate ourselves from the people around us. And I don't know how to get through that other than supporting people like you or changing our lives drastically to do so.
Well, we are only as good as the people around us. Also, always remember this, like, don't ever have any selfish thoughts. Everybody have their best intention. Just make sure that your best intention is not an extremely selfish one. Then I think it's very easy to make certain decisions in life. And just now you were talking about your interest in outer space. A while back I was writing about this art theory about time travel, like light can travel through time and space because it has zero mass. And like humans, we have body mass, right? So actually, before that theory, I was actually studying about this idea about building the future. Do you know that almost 200 years plus ago, in 1814, about 202 years ago, there's this French Newton, his name is Pierre-Simon Laplace. He make a statement that is very true, that if we can measure everything around us, we can predict the future, right? So he give an example, like, for example, like the way I understand it, my interpretation is if you were to hold a glass and you drop it onto a concrete floor, right, you will predict the future that the glass will break upon hitting impact with the floor, right? So he added that, look, human inability to measure everything that's happening around the world right now also make us a bit incapable of predicting the future accurately. So he suggests 202 years ago that maybe the future that the humans imagine at that time for the future many years later, it is maybe shallow. Maybe it may not even happen. The way I interpret it 202 years later with you on this podcast is that I think the future is predictable in a more how do I explain this? If let's say everybody were to begin whatever they do with love, if let's say the future we want to build is one filled with love, and everybody around the world collectively at the same time in the world is doing and beginning everything we do with love, then I'm very sure that the future we are building is one that's built on love. It don't have to take us to measure every single event or item that's happening around the world to kind of predict the exact future. That's not the accuracy we need. We just need that the future we are moving forward towards is one that's built on love. And in order for us to do that, all we need to do is to begin whatever we are doing now with love. It is a very simple formula. It is very clear. It is impossible to not understand this accurately. I think that's how we all should be doing, right? Really simple. And that's the kind of like lessons I want my children and future grandchildren to really understand.
Yeah, and first of all, I completely agree, and I think you can change your reality just by making that simple switch of saying, hey, I'm going to approach my day, even though I hate my job, I can't do anything about it right now. Even though I hate whatever kind of situation I'm in, there's nothing I can do about it right now. Even though I don't like this person that I have to interact with right now, there's nothing I can do about it. So I might as well approach this person with love. I try to do that sometimes. Like I told you, I deal poker, and there are some miserable people there. And
wait, young man. Does your customers listen to your podcast, and do they know?
They do not.
All right.
They do
continue.
not. No.
All right.
They do not. There's a couple that know about it, but other than that, they are very uninterested in my podcast about creativity.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's like a game I try to play sometimes where.
Game?
Yeah, it's like a game that I like to play. It's like I deal cards, somebody loses, and they blame me. So they stare at me. They stare me down.
Wow.
Which is like, I was talking to my wife about that too. I was like, what other job is it like okay to like stare somebody down like with hatred? You know what I mean? Where they're like trying to blame me for the cards that randomly just came out. Like I'm just the guy that deals the cards. I actually didn't take your money. Another player took your money. And whatever, that point aside, whenever a character like that is in my, like, there's nothing I can do. I'm sitting at the table. This person's in my life. They're staring me down. The next interaction that I can try to make with them, I try to like just be the friendliest person I can and just ignore the fact that I realize that you hate me right now for something that I didn't really actually do. I understand the absurdity of the fact that you are blaming me for that, and just be like the kindest person that I can to you. It's a game that I like to play, and just seeing them change, you know, like seeing that, like me actually looking you in the eye, and trying to interact with you as a human being and not as like a piece of shit. I don't know. I think it's a very interesting thing to see that shift in them.
Yeah.
To see that, you know, oh, it doesn't actually have to be like this. And I think that, like you said, that if everybody approached, I'm not saying I'm a saint or anything like that. I'm just saying it's an interesting experiment. And when I do try to approach my day and trick myself by smiling in the car ride to work, even though I'm sad to be going to work, you know, like tricking yourself into trying to approach life from a place of love, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think that if everybody could do that, then the world would be a much different place. But the momentum is sometimes very unnerving, especially like the political situation that the United States is going through right now, and just the things that we do as a country, our kind of place in the world and other countries as well. Just the way that this existence that we find ourselves in, the way that this existence kind of happens all around us, and we're just this little piece of it. It's really hard to do that sometimes, but I think, I don't know. Sometimes it seems like too big of a thing, you know?
Nobody knows, so don't worry about the I don't know part. And I think just like understand that it doesn't matter what decision is made at the end of the day. When the decision was made, everybody have their best interest. So there's no need to have hatred or anger about anything. Like, there's only so much one can do to influence another. Like, I'm sure everybody make that decision with their best interest in mind. It's just that sometimes it's hard because other people's best interest may not be in the greater good. Yeah, I would say the same thing as you. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, who knows?
Yeah.
Before we let you go, what can we, as for most of the people listening are like adults with jobs that are trying to pursue their creative passions or actively pursuing their creative passions, what can we learn from the children that you interact with every day about pursuing our creative passions?
The first thing I would say is this story about this little boy I met in Fukushima. So when I asked him to draw a picture about his dream, he drew a picture of Super Mario. And he says that when I grow up, I want to become Super Mario. Where everybody else is drawing, I want to be a Shinkansen, which is the bullet train in Japan, a train driver. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a vet that play with crocodile. These are understandable. I want to be a sushi chef. But he is the only one who drew, I want to be Super Mario when I grow up, which is cute. And then I asked him, why do you want to do that? He explained, so that in case the next disaster were to happen, if it were to ever happen, a tsunami or earthquake, I can quickly drive all my family and friends and people I care about in my Super Mario Kart and bring them away to safety. Despite what happened, understanding that the tsunami and earthquake happened just a few months ago when I was with him at the time in 2011, I think July, right? His dream is not about what I want to buy, what I want to own, what I want to play. It's not about him. It is about him wanting to do something for other people despite what happened at that situation at that time to so many people around him. And I think that's a beautiful dream. So what I want to say as an encouragement to people is that, look, whatever you want to do or something new or creative passion you want to pursue, there may be a bit of a fear because there's a bit of the unknown, and because it's unknown, there's fear, right? And sometimes you think it may be difficult for you to put down the things or really just to go all in or rather go part-time to pursue certain things or create a new project. Because it's new, there's fear, there's unknown, right? One thing you just need to understand is this very simple fact that every act of courage is always an act of love. If you love something enough, it doesn't matter how difficult that creative pursuit is. How hard can difficult be if it's something you love? And if it's something you love, the courage will come naturally to you. So what is there to worry about? And if it's something you love, I don't think there's anything for us to hesitate and just do it. And of course, always do it out of the intention of love. If it's out of the intention of anything else, it doesn't matter how shortcut or how small success or how quick success you may have in the short term. In the long run, things will collapse. Always begin with love. Always build a strong foundation. And the strongest foundation you can ever build is a foundation that's built on love. And that foundation will lead us to the future that's built on love. In between the foundation where you build on love, in between the end goal of building a future on love, in between all this, just begin whatever you do it with love. I think life is so simple. And my whole life, just to recap what I do to your audience, to all of you listening now, is that I'm just somebody. I'm not even a great artist. Some people don't even recognize me as artist. Some people don't recognize me as a philanthropist. It doesn't matter. I'm just somebody who is using my first love, drawing, to remind the world to first love, to begin with love. Because what I do not seek the authority, permission to do what I love. I do not need permission or authority given from anybody up there or anywhere to do what I really believe in or what I really love, right? At the end of the day, nobody is going to care more about your passion, your life, your love, more than yourself. So just remember, if you believe in yourself, if you believe in your dream, if you really want to do something, it is really so important and it really matters so much to you. And if the reason is out of love, and you can do it to begin with love, your action, your words, everything you do, begin it with love, then I don't see there's any reason to hesitate and not to do what you really want to do.
Dude, I am full of love right now.
I was rapping for the last 1 minute. I realized I stopped breathing. I forgot to breathe in between.
Well, so yeah, so I always ask, the final question is like this final push where I ask you to kind of motivate people, like give that your best words of advice, but you just already blew that out of the park. I can't possibly imagine that you could top that. So let's have that be your final push, because that is perfect, dude. Always come from love and don't hesitate. I think that's something that a lot of people do because they are looking for that authority, that you mentioned. You know, like you said, you're just a guy that is going from your first love. Same thing here. Like, I'm just a dude who picked up a microphone and started a podcast because I found motivation, you know, and I want to share that motivation. And I think that anybody listening is to think about what that first love is and go for that. I don't think there's any better message that could be said.
There's one more better message that I can say to all the listeners to this podcast. Thank you for listening to me, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to share something with all of you. Because I think whatever we do, no matter how much knowledge or experience we have, until we share it with real people in real life that make a real impact in the real world, until we do that, anything we have is actually all artificial. It's in the mind. Yeah. So I'm just glad that I have this opportunity because of Young Man. Thank you very much. And all of you who is listening right now, thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I believe this podcast sharing session with Young Man and with all of you listening right now is a story that I will be sharing with my children and grandchildren. And thanks for staying up at 3:30 a.m. to do this interview with me. Your listeners must understand you are staying up so late to do this with somebody from all the way in Singapore.
Dude, it's no worries at all. Like I said, this has been a wonderful chat, and just jumping on that again, like what you said, it is so important to remember that. Like, it's one thing to listen to a podcast and to feel inspired, but it's another thing to actually sit down and do the work and figure out a way to share a part of yourself, to share that motivation that you feel, to share that life that you want to live. You actually have to do it, dude. Just thank you so much for coming on the show. This was super motivational, and I just loved your message. I love what you're doing. I love that you've devoted your life to this, and I think that you're an inspiration for not only the children that you meet, the children that you help, but just for anybody in the world to just see that you can do what you want to do with your life. You can do that. What is your first love, you know?
Yep. Thank you so much, Young Man.
Oh, of course, man. And you can find Peter at peterdraw.com. You can find him on Instagram, Peter Draw. On Facebook, he's Peter Draw Studio. And we'll have everything that we talked about today at yourcreativepush.com/Peter Draw. Peter, thanks again, brother.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much, everybody.
My thank you to Peter for coming on the show. What an inspirational dude. I mean, seriously, so much to learn from this episode and so much to learn from this guy, but especially the idea of, you know, what do you do as an artist? It's one thing to be able to create every day, especially if you're able to make that the only thing that you do. You know, if you found a way to make it your full-time job that you can live your life without having to do anything else, I think that's really special. But Peter really brings that thought out about what do you do, though, as an artist? What is it allowing you to do with your life, and what are you attempting to achieve? Getting back to the roots of why you started this in the first place and how you want to help yourself and the world with your creative passion. And for those of you who, you know, this isn't your full-time gig and you just lack the motivation or whatever else is holding you back from, you know, creating every day, figure out what your red sweater is. Figure out that thing that you can look at every day to remind yourself why you want to achieve this, why you want to be a creative person, and why you want to put stuff out into the world. Sometimes it does take something like a red sweater, something that you can actually physically look at to give yourself that constant reminder of why you started this thing in the first place, or why you want to get to this creative place in your life. And then finally, Peter's message about just starting everything from love, with love. Be nice to each other, especially in this kind of hard time in America. I know some people are upset with the way the election went. Some people are happy because obviously the majority of people are happy. But either way, whatever side you stand on this, the country is very divided. And I think the only way to kind of find that middle ground and come together is to come at it with love and to try to understand each other. It does seem like a huge thing, like we were talking about in the episode, like too big of a problem, but the only way you can start is by changing your own existence and by trying to, you know, treat others with love. But you all are sweethearts. I know you already do that, but just a little reminder. But that is all I've got for you today. Hopefully you're inspired to go and get your work done. So go and get it done. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you on Monday. If you need the push again, go get some amazing work done. I love you all, and we will see you then. Bye. Never miss a push. Head to yourcreativepush.com/subscribe to find the easiest way for you to subscribe to the podcast.